absolutely not the way he's doing it, because he is just doing indiscriminate tariffs on indiscriminate countries. The formula that he used makes no sense at all to levy these tariffs, and it is driving the stock market into chaos. It's driving the economy into chaos. It's destroying the retirement funds and pension funds of so many Americans who have spent their entire lives saving for their retirement, and particularly if you're in that category of over 50, you are really watching these retirement funds go down. Any tool can be a strategic tool if used properly. And there are strategic ways to use tariffs to bring manufacturing back, but you would need to pair it with investments in domestic manufacturing. Those investments in domestic manufacturing are the exact ones that Trump is also stripping. The things that Democrats passed, like in the infrastructure bill, in the Inflation Reduction Act, in the CHIPS and Science Act, those were the kinds of investments that the government needs to make simultaneously with strategically applied tariffs. What he's doing is just causing absolute chaos, and it is not, it's not the way to do it if you care about American jobs.
We're, first of all, trying to push back on these tariffs that are adversely impacting our agricultural economy. We've had agricultural groups coming into my office and my colleagues for the last month with great fear that these markets are going to plummet. 44% of our California agriculture, the #1 agricultural state in the nation, is exported. Therefore, our dependency upon the ability to export our tree nuts, almonds, pistachios, walnuts, our dairy products. 20% of the dairy production in the nation comes in California. 80% of the citrus production, our specialty crops. 90% of the canned tomatoes in America come from California. The list goes on. And so therefore the farmers, the agriculture economy, the farming interests are very much alarmed. We've been down this road before during Trump's first administration. And in some instances we lost market share that we've never regained. So what we're trying to do is to indicate that these tariffs in part run counter to the trade agreement that President Trump signed into law 5 years ago, the U.S., Mexico, Canada trade agreement that he touted as the best, most beautiful, greatest trade agreement ever known to mankind 5 years ago. And by the way, it was a good trade agreement, and there was a provision to have it reviewed every 5 years. It's supposed to be reviewed at the end of this year. That would be a far better mechanism to deal with any differences with Canada and Mexico, our neighbors, our friends, in which 40% of the trade that we are engaged in America takes place, Canada and Mexico. You know, Canada purchases 40% of California wines a month ago, not no more. 85% of the potash that we use for fertilizer in California comes from Canada. The list goes on and on. These trade tariff war is impacting America's pocketbook, American consumers, because it's a tax on them and American producers, and in terms of our investments, our 401k, our retirement systems. It is a very serious issue that we're dealing with right now, and we're losing support and trust in our friends and our allies.
I think you need to look at the picture in total. We're actually discussing this in Ways and Means this morning. If you look at what the trade deficit of the United States in, the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years, we've really been plummeting as far as our trade deficit and what's happening with the country. And I think one thing that maybe we should talk about better is the fact of that so many other countries that we try to get our goods into have created such high tariff barriers that we're not able to get those goods into. So the president really realizes this and how our economy really is in a dire strait as far as our financial near future. And so what we're trying to do is really reestablish fair trade, just fair trade, knocking down some of the tariff barriers that will eventually, and hopefully sooner than later, really knock down so many barriers for all American goods, including those in agriculture. And yeah, I will tell you, since the president started this basically just a week ago, over 70 countries, 70, have come back to Washington, D.C. saying, yes, we had bad trade barriers to your products. We want to negotiate. We want to knock those down so that we can have fair trade with the United States. It is difficult, I know, in the short term for farmers. If needed, I'm sure there'll be some type of relief coming to them. But we have to have our markets, we have to have our goods, rather, be accessible to other markets around the world.
I'm concerned about it. Not only is it going to make products more expensive for everyday families, it's going to make housing more expensive. Could add up to $10,000 to the cost of house just because of tariffs on materials. And it's impacting our tourism. If people don't have money in their pockets, they can't go on holiday. And people in Canada and Mexico and Europe, where these tariffs have been imposed, they're not as likely to come for a trip to Las Vegas. So it's going to hit on all different fronts. Well, I think they should be very worried. Now, some of the long-term forecasts are that it may come back gradually, but if you're a senior and you're retiring, you don't have that long-term. And it's not just the 401ks, it's Social Security and Medicare. If they go after that too, again, you're being hit from all sides.
I think it's very important. I mean, one of the things that Trump is doing is he is just plowing ahead with no regard for Congress. And Republicans, for the most part, have allowed him to do that. Now, maybe as seniors start to see their retirement funds, decimated, some Republicans are starting to get a little bit of a spine and maybe stand up. But this is, I think we need to really assert ourselves as Congress with congressional oversight and authority on everything, and the administration has to start respecting that, because right now Republican colleagues that go along with the Trump administration eliminating the Department of Education, eliminating the Department of Health and Human Services, these are congressionally authorized agencies with congressionally appropriated funds. And I don't know what my Republican colleagues want to do here in Congress if they just want to turn all the power over to the president.